Lisa Park stared at her computer screen. The numbers made no sense. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. The signal was coming from deep space, far beyond any human colony. She had been working on the research ship Stellar Dawn for 3 years, and she had never seen anything like this. "Dr. Cross, you need to see this," she called across the communications room. Alan Cross walked over and put on his headphones. He was the ship's language expert. If anyone could figure out what this signal meant, it was him. He listened for a few minutes. Then his face went pale. "This is not human," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "I mean, this signal is from aliens. Real aliens." Alan's hand shook as he adjusted the controls. "And they're asking for help." Captain Jake Miller arrived on the bridge 30 minutes later. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen many strange things in space, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Play it again," he told Alan. The alien voice filled the room. It sounded scared and desperate. Even though they could not understand the words, everyone could hear the fear. "I've been working on translating it," Alan said. "The language is complex, but I'm getting pieces. They call themselves the Kithera Coalition. They're under attack by something called the Vorthon Empire." "Are you sure this is real?" Jake asked. "The signal is too complex to be fake," Lisa answered. "And look at this." She pointed to her screen. "The transmission includes star maps, real ones. They match our charts perfectly." Alan pulled up his translation notes. "They know about Earth. They're asking us for help because they heard we might be warriors." Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Warriors? We're scientists and explorers." "Maybe," Alan said, "but we come from Earth, and Earth is different from their world." The captain looked at the star map again. Red dots showed where the Vorthon Empire had attacked. Blue dots showed Kithera worlds that were still free. There were not many blue dots left. "How long until we can send this to Earth Command?" Jake asked. "The quantum relay is ready now," Lisa replied. "Do it." Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Ross sat in her office reading reports. She was tired. Budget meetings, supply problems, and paperwork filled her days. Then her communication device buzzed with an emergency signal. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," her aide said. 20 minutes later, Kate sat in the emergency council room with the top military leaders of Earth. The alien message played 3 times before anyone spoke. General Pete Logan was the first to break the silence. "This could be a trap." "A trap from who?" Kate asked. "We've never met any aliens before." "That's exactly why it could be a trap," Pete replied. "We don't know anything about what's out there." Dr. Cross appeared on the video screen from the Stellar Dawn. "Admiral, I have more information. The Kithera are peaceful. They're scientists and traders. They have advanced technology but almost no weapons." "What about these Vorthons?" Kate asked. "From what I can understand, they're conquerors. They take over star systems and make slaves of the people living there. They've destroyed 17 civilizations so far." General Logan shook his head. "That's not our problem. Earth comes first." "Actually, it might be our problem," Dr. Cross said. He brought up the star map. "Look at the Vorthon attack pattern. After they finish with the Kithera worlds, their natural expansion route leads directly toward human space." The room went quiet. Everyone studied the map. The path was clear. "How long do we have?" Kate asked. "If they keep moving at their current rate, maybe 2 years before they reach our outer colonies. And if we help the Kithera, we might stop them now, while they're busy with another war." General Logan stood up. "Or we might make them angry and bring them down on us faster." Kate looked around the room at the other officers. Some nodded with Logan. Others looked worried about the alien threat. "What do we know about human capabilities compared to these aliens?" she asked. Dr. Cross thought for a moment. "The Kithera seem amazed that we responded to their call so quickly. They mention that we come from a harsh world and might be strong fighters. I think they don't really understand what humans are capable of." "And the Vorthons? They've never lost a war. Every species they've fought has been peaceful. Like the Kithera, they're used to easy victories. Admiral Kate Ross stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over Earth's orbital shipyards. Hundreds of ships floated in space. Most were designed for exploration and research, but many were military vessels. Earth had built them, after the colonial wars, just in case they were needed again. "How many ships can we put together?" she asked. "For what?" General Logan demanded. Kate turned around. "If we're going to fight the Vorthons eventually anyway, better to fight them. Now while we have allies." "The Kythera aren't warriors," Logan protested. "No, but they have advanced technology, and they know the enemy." Kate made her decision. "Dr. Cross, send a message back to the Kythera. Tell them help is coming." "What kind of help?" Logan asked. Kate smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator. The kind that comes from a death world. The kind that's been fighting wars for thousands of years. She turned to her staff officers. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're going to show the galaxy what humans can do when someone threatens innocent people." The room erupted in discussion, but Kate had made up her mind. For the first time in human history, Earth's military would fight in an interstellar war. Outside the window, the first ships began moving toward the fleet assembly points. Commander Ryan Hayes watched his screens as his scout ship moved through the edge of Kythera space. What he saw made his stomach sick. 3 planets burned in the distance. Smoke and fire covered their surfaces. Pieces of destroyed ships floated, everywhere like metal snow. "How many people lived on those worlds?" he asked his communications officer. "According to our data, about 50 million on each planet," Lisa Park replied. She had transferred to his ship for this mission. Ryan closed his eyes. 150 million people. Gone. "Sir, I'm picking up something," said Lieutenant Tom Baker from the sensor station. "Small ships, moving fast." On the main screen, dozens of strange vessels appeared. They looked nothing like human ships. These were smooth and curved like seashells made of metal. "They're not attacking," Tom reported. "They're running." Ryan opened a communication channel. "This is Commander Hayes of the human vessel Pathfinder. We received your distress call. We're here to help." Static filled the channel for a moment, then a voice spoke in broken English. "Humans? You came? We hoped but did not believe." "We're here," Ryan said. "What's your situation?" "I am Captain Velith of the Kythera ship Morning Star. We carry refugees from the 3rd planet. The Vorthons destroyed everything. Our defense fleet lasted only 6 hours." Ryan looked at his tactical display. The Kythera ships had no weapons. They were pure transport vessels carrying as many people as possible. "How many survivors?" "From 3 worlds? Perhaps 2 million. The rest are dead." The numbers hit Ryan like a physical blow. The Vorthons had killed over 140 million people in a few days. "Captain Velith, we're going to escort you to safety. Then we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again." Back at Earth, the largest military operation in human history was taking shape. Fleet Admiral Dan Stone stood on the bridge of the Iron Phoenix, watching hundreds of ships move into formation. The Iron Phoenix was humanity's newest and strongest warship. It was 2 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Around it moved the carrier ships Liberty Strike and New Horizon, each one holding 200 fighter craft. "Status report," Dan called to his staff. 47. "Destroyers ready for combat," reported Captain Mike Rodriguez. 23 cruisers, 8 battle carriers, and supporting vessels, total fleet strength, 138 ships. Dan nodded. It was the biggest human fleet ever assembled. But was it enough? What about our new diplomatic officer? "Doctor, Amy Foster is on Deck 7, working with the Kythera language files." Amy Foster sat in her small office, surrounded by alien text and audio recordings. She was Earth's best expert on first contact procedures, but nothing had prepared her for this situation. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened and a figure walked in that made Amy gasp. It was an alien, a real, living alien. The creature was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. It wore simple robes and moved with grace. "Dr. Foster? I am Elder Synthera, of the Kythera Coalition. Commander Hayes brought me to meet with you." Amy stood up, trying not to stare. Please sit down, I'm honored to meet you. Synthera settled into a chair that had been specially made for alien physiology. I wanted to thank your species personally. We did not expect anyone to answer our call for help. Why not? Because we have met many species in our travels. Most are peaceful, like us. We trade, we share knowledge, we explore together. But when the Vorthons came, none of our friends could help us fight. What makes the Vorthons so dangerous? Synthera's large eyes grew sad. They come from a world where only the strong survive. They see weakness as something to be destroyed. They have conquered 17 star systems and have never been stopped. Amy leaned forward. Tell me about their military. 300 ships, maybe more. Each one is built for war. Their soldiers are trained from birth to fight and kill. They show no mercy. What about their tactics? They surround a system with their fleet. They demand surrender. If a world refuses, they destroy it completely. If a world surrenders, they take all the young people as slaves and kill everyone else. Amy felt cold. They've never faced serious resistance? Never. Every species they have met was peaceful. We had some defense ships, but they were designed to fight pirates, not a real military force. Elder Synthera, I need you to understand something about humans. Yes? Amy chose her words carefully. Earth is not a peaceful world. Everything on our planet evolved to survive by fighting. Our oceans have creatures that can kill whales. Our land has animals that hunt in packs. Even our plants can be deadly. Synthera listened with growing amazement. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've fought each other. We've fought nature, and we've survived everything our world could throw at us. When we go to war, we don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure our enemies can never threaten anyone again. You are saying humans are warriors? We're saying that when someone hurts innocent people, humans become very dangerous. On the bridge of the Iron Phoenix, Admiral Stone received the final reports. The fleet was ready. 138 ships carrying the best weapons and warriors that Earth could produce. Sir, called his communications officer. Message from Earth Command. Admiral Ross appeared on the screen. Dan, you have full authority to engage the Vorthons, protect the Kythera, protect our interests, and show the galaxy what humanity stands for. Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down. I know you won't. Good hunting. The screen went dark. Admiral Stone looked out at his fleet. Soon they would face an enemy that had never lost a battle. But the Vorthons had never fought humans before. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination, Kythera home system. The human fleet disappeared into the stars, carrying with them the hopes of two species and the promise of justice for the innocent dead. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Dan Stone looked at his tactical display and felt his blood run cold. The Vorthon armada was massive. 300 ships filled the space around a dying star, their dark hulls gleaming like weapons themselves. Count confirmed, sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Beth Gray from the sensor station. 312 enemy vessels. They're arranged in standard battle formation. Dan studied the enemy fleet through his binoculars. The Vorthon ships were built like daggers, long, sharp, and deadly. Each one bristled with weapons. At the center sat the largest ship he had ever seen, a monster that dwarfed even the Iron Phoenix. That must be their flagship, he said. Sir, we're being scanned, called the communications officer. They know we're here. On the bridge of the Vorthon flagship Deathbringer, Admiral Kazreth stared at the human fleet with amusement. 138 ships against his 300. These newcomers were either very brave or very stupid. Kazreth was a tall creature with gray skin and yellow eyes. Scars covered his arms from 100 battles. He had never lost a fight in 30 years of conquest. What are these ships? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown design, Admiral. They appear to be primitive, simple construction, basic weapons. Kazreth laughed. More allies for the Kythera, I suppose. Open a channel. Let's see what these creatures want before we destroy them. Back on the Iron Phoenix, Dan received the incoming transmission. The alien face that appeared on his screen made him think of a predator, all teeth and cold eyes. "I am Admiral Kazreth, of the Vorthan Empire," the alien said in perfect English. "You have entered a war zone. Leave now, or be destroyed with the Cathara criminals." Dan stepped forward. "I am Fleet Admiral Dan Stone of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw from Cathara space immediately." Kazreth's laughter filled the bridge. "Earth? I have never heard of this world. How many ships do you have, little Admiral? 100? 200? Enough. I have conquered 17 star systems. I have destroyed fleets 10 times larger than yours. What makes you think you can stand against the Vorthan Empire?" Dan's face grew hard. "Because we're human. And humans don't let bullies hurt innocent people." "Human?" Kazreth studied Dan more carefully. "What kind of world produced you?" "The kind where only the strong survive. The kind where we learned to fight by fighting everything that tried to kill us." For a moment, Kazreth's confidence wavered. There was something in the human's eyes that he had never seen before. Not fear, not desperation, but cold, calculating anger. "You will surrender now," Kazreth said, trying to regain control. "Join the Empire as servants, and we will let some of your people live." Dan smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Counteroffer. You leave Cathara space right now and we let some of your people live." The transmission ended. On both flagships, the admirals prepared for battle. "All ships, battle stations," Dan commanded. "Execute Plan Alpha." The human fleet began to move. Instead of charging straight at the enemy like every other species had done, they spread out into small groups. Destroyers and cruisers moved in different directions, confusing the Vorthan formation. Captain Steve Parker commanded the destroyer, Valor. He led a group of 6 ships in a wide circle around the enemy fleet. "Remember, hit and run," he told his crew. "We're not trying to win a straight fight, we're trying to make them confused." The Valor and her sister ships struck the edge of the Vorthan formation like lightning. Their weapons tore through 2 enemy cruisers before the Vorthans could respond. Then they disappeared back into space, leaving the aliens wondering where they had gone. "What was that?" Admiral Kazreth demanded. "Unknown, sir. The enemy ships attacked and then retreated. We lost the heavy strike in the Iron Fist." Kazreth had never seen tactics like this. Every other species had fought in neat formations, ship against ship. These humans fought like wild animals, striking from unexpected directions. "Lieutenant, Commander Beth Gray led her fighter squadrons in the next attack. 200 small human craft swarmed around the Vorthan fleet like angry bees. The enemy had fighters too, but they were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not for fighting swarms of fast, tiny attackers." Blue Squadron, hit their communications. "Array," Beth commanded. "Red Squadron, take out those sensor dishes." The human fighters dove and twisted through enemy fire. Many were shot down. But for every human fighter lost, they destroyed 3 Vorthan systems. Soon, parts of the enemy fleet could not talk to each other. "Sir, we're losing coordination," the Vorthan tactical officer reported. "The humans are attacking our command systems." Kazreth watched his perfect formation begin to fall apart. Ships were firing in all directions, trying to hit the fast human vessels. Some Vorthan ships were accidentally shooting each other. "This is impossible," he growled. "They only have 100 ships." Admiral Dan Stone watched the battle from his command center. The first phase was working perfectly. The Vorthans were used to fighting enemies who followed military rules. Humans had learned to fight by surviving on a world that had no rules. "Sir, enemy flagship is trying to re-establish formation," reported Beth Gray. "Not if I can help it," Dan said. "All ships, execute Plan Beta. Direct assault on the flagship." The Iron Phoenix and her escorts charged straight at the Deathbringer. This was what Kazreth had expected from the beginning, a direct fight between flagships. "Finally," he said, "a proper battle. All weapons, target their lead ship." The space between the 2 fleets filled with energy beams and missiles. The Iron Phoenix shook under enemy fire, but her shields held. Human weapons began tearing into Vorthan armor. "Their shields are stronger than expected," the Vorthan gunner reported. "Impossible. They're primitives." But as the battle continued, Khazrith began to understand. These humans were not primitive, they were different. They fought like they had been born in war because they had been. Admiral, his communications officer called. We're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Admiral Stone appeared on the screen again. Behind him, sparks flew from damaged systems, but his face remained calm. Admiral Khazrith, this is your last chance. Surrender now. Never. The Vorthan Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Then you're about to learn something about humans, Dan said. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure monsters like you never threaten innocent people again. The transmission ended. The battle entered its second phase, and Admiral Khazrith began to understand that he had made the worst mistake of his life. The war had been going on for 3 weeks. What started as one battle had spread across 5 star systems. Both sides sent more ships, more weapons, and more soldiers. But something was changing. The Vorthans were losing. Captain Nick Torres crouched in the dark corridor of a Vorthan battlecruiser. Behind him, 20 human Marines waited for his signal. They had just cut through the ship's hull with plasma torches. Now they were inside enemy territory. Remember, we need prisoners, Nick whispered into his radio. The Admiral wants information about their command structure. The Marines nodded. They were all veterans of Earth's colonial wars. Fighting in spaceships was new, but fighting was something they understood very well. Nick kicked open the door to the ship's bridge. Vorthan soldiers turned in surprise. They were tall and strong, but they moved slowly. Humans from Earth's heavy gravity were faster and stronger than anything the aliens had ever faced. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, 5 Vorthans were dead and 3 were prisoners. Not one human was seriously hurt. This is too easy, muttered Sergeant Lisa Morgan as she tied up a Vorthan officer. These guys fight like they've never been in a real battle. They probably haven't, Nick replied. The captain said they always won by having more ships. They never learned to fight when they were losing. On the human flagship Iron Phoenix, Chief Engineer Maria Santos worked on her latest invention. The Vorthans had bigger ships and more powerful weapons, but human ships were faster and more flexible. Maria was making them even better. Try it now, she told her team. The test engine roared to life. The new modification made human ships 20% faster than before. In space combat, speed meant life or death. Maria, you're a genius, said Lieutenant Paul Clark. With these upgrades, our destroyers can run circles around their battleships. Just doing my job, Maria replied. But she smiled. Her modifications were spreading to every ship in the human fleet. Soon they would have a real advantage. Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Hayes was completing his most dangerous mission yet. His stealth ship Shadowhawk had been hiding near the Vorthan command station for 2 days. The station was a massive structure that controlled all enemy fleet movements. Are you sure about this? Asked his pilot, Lieutenant Jenny Brooks. The Admiral needs that information, Ryan said. Without it, this war could last for years. And if we get caught, then we don't get caught. The Shadowhawk moved silently toward the command station. Human stealth technology was designed to hide from other human sensors, which were the best in known space. Vorthan sensors were much simpler. Ryan and his team reached the station's computer core without being detected. While his soldiers stood guard, Ryan connected his equipment to the alien systems. Downloading now, he whispered. Fleet positions, supply routes, command codes, this is everything. Alarms began ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed as Vorthan security forces rushed toward the computer core. Time to go, Ryan said. The fight to escape was fierce. Vorthan guards filled the corridors, but human special forces were trained for exactly this kind of mission. They fought their way back to their ship, carrying the stolen information that would change the war. Back on the Iron Phoenix, Dr. Amy Foster worked with Cathera refugees to build a joint command center. The aliens were amazed by human military organization. Your species coordinates thousands of ships like they were one mind, said Elder Synthera. How is this possible? Practice, Amy replied. Humans have been fighting wars for a very long time. We learned that winning requires perfect teamwork. The Vorthans do not fight this way. No. From what we've seen, they depend on their leader making all the decisions. If something happens to their command structure, their whole fleet becomes confused. Elder Synthera studied the human battle plans. You are not just fighting to defeat them. You are fighting to protect us. That's what humans do, Amy said. We protect people who can't protect themselves. The Cathera elder was quiet for a long moment. We have met many species in our travels across the galaxy. Most are peaceful like us, some are aggressive like the Vorthans, but we have never met anyone like humans. What do you mean? You are both peaceful and aggressive. You explore and learn, but you also fight and destroy. You are scientists and warriors at the same time. Amy nodded. Earth taught us that we needed to be both. The universe is beautiful, but it's also dangerous. Someone has to stand between the peaceful people and the monsters. On the bridge, Admiral Dan Stone studied the latest intelligence from Commander Hayes's mission. What he learned made him smile for the first time in weeks. Captain Rodriguez, prepare the fleet for Operation Hammer, he commanded. Sir, are you sure? It's very risky. The Vorthans have a weakness. They can only fight the way they've always fought. But humans adapt. Dan looked at the star charts showing Vorthon fleet positions. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten people under human protection. The information from the command station revealed everything. Vorthon fleet movements, supply schedules, and most importantly, the location of their main fleet concentration in the Arcturus system. All ships, new orders, Dan announced to the fleet. We're not just going to defeat the Vorthons, we're going to end their empire. Admiral Kazreth sat in his damaged flagship, reading reports from across the war zone. Every day brought worse news. Human tactics were spreading panic through his forces. Ships that had never known defeat were being destroyed by smaller human vessels. Sir, we've lost contact with Battle Group 7, his communications officer reported. How many ships? 23 vessels, including 2 battleships. Kazreth closed his eyes. In 3 weeks of fighting, he had lost over 100 ships. Humans had lost maybe 30. The numbers made no sense. What about the boarding parties? All failed, sir. Human soldiers fight like demons. Our troops cannot match them in close combat. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kazreth felt afraid. These humans were not like any enemy he had ever faced. They fought with intelligence, courage, and something else. Something that made them willing to sacrifice everything to protect strangers. Sir, incoming message from the human admiral. Dan Stone appeared on the screen. His uniform was clean, his face was calm. Behind him, the human flagship looked ready for battle. Admiral Kazreth, this war ends now. Surrender, and your people will be treated fairly. Never, Kazreth snarled. The Vorthan Empire does not surrender. Then your empire ends today. The transmission cut off. Kazreth looked at his tactical display, showing his remaining fleet. Still over 200 ships, surely enough to defeat the humans, but deep in his mind, a voice whispered that he had already lost. The final battle began at dawn in the Arcturus system. Admiral Dan Stone positioned his fleet among the floating rocks of an asteroid field. It was the perfect trap. The Vorthons would have to come to him, and when they did, their superior numbers would become a weakness. All ships in position, reported Captain Steve Parker from his destroyer Valor. His ship was hidden behind a large asteroid, waiting for the signal to attack. Enemy fleet approaching, sir, called Lieutenant Commander Beth Gray. 215 ships. Admiral Kazreth is leading them personally. Dan studied his tactical display. The Vorthans were coming in their traditional formation, a massive wall of ships moving forward together. It had worked against every other species they had fought, but humans were different. Remember the plan, Dan said to his fleet commanders. Let them come deep into the asteroid field. When they're committed, we hit them from all sides. On the Vorthon flagship Deathbringer, Admiral Kazreth watched the asteroids with growing concern. He could see some human ships hiding among the rocks, but not all of them. Where was the rest of their fleet? Sir, this looks like a trap, his tactical officer warned. Of course it's a trap, Kazreth replied. But we have more ships. We can fight through any trap they set. It was the same thinking that had won him 17 star systems. But humans did not fight like other species. The Vorthon fleet moved deeper into the asteroid field. The rocks made it hard for their ships to stay in formation. Captains had to focus on not crashing instead of watching for enemies. Now, Dan whispered. The trap was sprung. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids on all sides of the Vorthon fleet. Captain Parker's destroyers struck from the left. Beth Gray's fighters swarmed from above. Heavy cruisers blocked the exit routes. The Vorthans found themselves scattered among the asteroids with human ships attacking from every direction. Their neat formation collapsed into chaos. Focus fire on their command ships, Dan ordered. Human weapons targeted Vorthon officers and communication systems. Without clear orders, individual enemy ships began making their own decisions. Some tried to fight, others tried to run. The disciplined Vorthon fleet became a mob of confused vessels. Lieutenant Jack Burns led his fighter squadron in a bombing run against a Vorthon battleship. The massive enemy vessel was trying to turn around between two asteroids, but it was too big and too slow. Gold leader to all fighters, Jack called. Target their engine section. Let's make sure they can't run. Bombs and missiles struck the battleship's rear engines. Explosions tore through the ship's hull. The Vorthon vessel went dark and began drifting into an asteroid. Captain Nick Torres was leading another boarding party, this time on Admiral Kazreth's flagship. His Marines had fought their way to the bridge where the Vorthon admiral waited with his personal guards. Surrender now, Nick demanded, pointing his weapon at Kazreth. The alien admiral looked around at his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead, or wounded. His fleet was being destroyed around him. For the first time in 30 years of conquest, he was losing a battle. What are you? Kazreth asked. We're human, Nick replied. We're the people you should never have threatened. Admiral Dan Stone received the surrender signal from the Deathbringer. Around the battlefield, other Vorthon ships were laying down their weapons. The great fleet that had conquered 17 star systems was defeated. Sir, Admiral Kazreth wants to speak with you, the communications officer reported. The alien appeared on the main screen. His proud bearing was gone. He looked old and tired. I offer terms, Kazreth said. The Vorthon Empire will give you territory. You can rule alongside us as junior partners. Dan shook his head. You still don't understand. We don't want to rule anybody. We want to protect people from rulers like you. Then what do you want? Your empire ends today. Every world you conquered goes free. Every slave gets sent home, and you never threaten innocent people again. Kazreth stared at the human. Admiral, you would destroy an empire of 17 star systems? We just did. The news of the Vorthon defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light. On conquered worlds, slave populations rose in rebellion. Vorthon garrisons that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves fighting desperate people who had heard that someone had beaten their masters. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the New Alliance headquarters on the Kythera homeworld. Representatives from dozens of species had come to meet the humans who had ended the Vorthon Empire. They all want to form alliances with Earth, she told Admiral Stone over the video link. What kind of alliances? Trade agreements, technology sharing, mutual defense pacts. The galaxy is full of peaceful species who need protection from the next Vorthon Empire. Dan thought about it. Earth had never wanted to be a galactic power, but the universe was a dangerous place, and peaceful people needed someone to stand between them and the monsters. Tell them we'll consider it, he said. But make sure they understand. Humans don't conquer. We protect. Elder Synthera of the Kythera Coalition stood with Amy as they watched human ships preparing to return to Earth. Many would stay to help rebuild the destroyed worlds, but others were going home. Will humans come back if there is another threat? Synthera asked. Always, Amy replied. That's what we do. When innocent people call for help, humans answer. Why? Amy looked out at the stars where human ships patrolled the space lanes, making sure the refugees could return home safely. Because someone has to, she said simply. 6 months later, Captain Jake Miller sat on the bridge of the Stellar Dawn, reading the latest messages from Earth. The small research ship that had first received the Cathera distress call was now part of a permanent human fleet stationed in the outer galaxy. "Sir, incoming transmission," his communications officer reported. "It's from the Zalara Republic. They're under attack by something called the Kraken Syndicate." Jake smiled. It was the same smile Admiral Stone had worn before the final battle. The smile of a protector who had found someone else to protect. "Set course for Zalara space," he ordered, "and send a message back to them." What should it say? Jake thought for a moment. Tell them help is coming. Tell them the humans heard their call. Outside the ship's windows, the stars waited. Somewhere, out there, more innocent people needed protection, and humans would be ready. The galaxy had learned something important. There were species that conquered, species that traded, and species that explored. But there was only one species that would cross the void to fight monsters and ask for nothing in return. They were called humans, and they came from a world that had taught them the most important lesson in the universe. The strong must protect the weak, no matter the cost.